The Mississippi River is never the same 2 days in a row. It is a restless, shifting, and often violent entity that redraws the very map of the country as it flows. In his memoir, Life on the Mississippi, Mark Twain doesn't just write about a river, he writes about a living, breathing protagonist that shapes the lives of everyone who dares to travel its waters. This isn't a simple autobiography, though it contains plenty of that. It's a sweeping history, a technical manual, and a nostalgic eulogy all wrapped into one. To understand the river, Twain starts with the earth itself. He takes us back to the prehistoric era, describing how the Mississippi was formed through endless cycles of erosion and deposition. He explains how the river is constantly trying to find a shorter, straighter path to the sea, carving out cut-offs that leave old river bends stranded as oxbow lakes. These shifts are so profound that they actually change the borders of states. This geological restlessness sets the stage for everything else. The river is unpredictable, and anyone who tries to master it is ultimately playing a game against a force that never stops moving. As Twain moves from the grand scale of geology to the human scale, we see the river's history through the eyes of explorers like Marquette, Joliet, and La Salle. But the real meat of the book begins when the technology of the river changes. Twain takes us from the era of slow, grueling keelboats, where men had to pull against the current with nothing but oars and sweat, into the high-speed, smoke-belching era of the steamboat. This transition changed everything. It turned the river from a difficult obstacle into a highway of commerce and chaos. Twain's own story begins in the small town of Hannibal, Missouri. We see him as a young boy, looking out at the water with a sense of romantic wonder. To a child, the river is a place of infinite adventure. But as he grows, that romance is stripped away, replaced by the grueling, technical reality of being a pilot. His apprenticeship under a man named Mr. Bixby is the heart of the book's first half. Bixby is a formidable figure, a man who possesses a near-supernatural understanding of the river's hidden dangers. Through Bixby, Twain learns that piloting isn't a romantic adventure at all. It is a high-stakes, technical science. To be a pilot, you have to learn the language of the river. You have to look at a swirl in the water, or a certain color in the current, and know instantly that there is a sunken snag or a shallow shoal waiting to tear the bottom out of your boat. There is a famous scene where Bixby takes Twain out on a nighttime passage near Hat Island. It is pitch black, and the river is a void. There are no lights, no landmarks, only the sound of the water and the immense pressure of responsibility. Bixby navigates the massive steamer through the darkness with terrifying precision, relying entirely on his memory of the river's bottom and his instinct for the currents. It is in these moments that the reader realizes the sheer psychological weight of the profession. A pilot is a man who holds absolute sovereignty over his vessel, but that sovereignty comes at the cost of constant, grinding vigilance. Twain also recounts a moment he calls the friendly swindle. Bixby, sensing Twain's growing confidence, decides to play a psychological prank on him. He leads him into a situation that feels incredibly dangerous, making Twain believe they are on the verge of disaster. When the danger passes, and Twain realizes he has been tricked, the lesson is clear. A pilot must maintain a mask of absolute composure. If the passengers or the crew see a flicker of fear in the pilot's eyes, the panic will spread faster than the river itself. A pilot's greatest tool isn't just his knowledge of the water, but his ability to project calm when everything is going wrong. As Twain becomes more skilled, the book expands to show the social landscape of the river. It was a world of extremes. There were the wealthy merchants in the cities, but there were also the rowdy raftsmen, the displaced farmers living on flooded lands, and the wholesale criminals who used the river's lawlessness to their advantage. He tells stories of gangs that operated with near impunity, exploiting the gaps in law enforcement to turn the river into a highway for theft and violence. The river also bears the scars of the Civil War. Twain provides a haunting account of the siege of Vicksburg. He describes how the civilians living there had become desensitized to the horror of war. They lived in clay caves dug into the banks to escape the constant bombardment, and after a while, the sound of shells became just another part of the landscape. This section serves as a grim reminder that while the river is a source of life and commerce, it is also a theatre for the most destructive aspects of human nature. In the second half of the book, the perspective shifts. We are no longer seeing the river through the eyes of a young apprentice, but through the eyes of an older, more reflective man. Twain is travelling from New Orleans up to St. Paul, and he finds that the world he once knew is disappearing. The majestic steamboats that once dominated the water are being replaced. The rise of the railroad and the construction of bridges have fundamentally changed the economics of the river. Twain describes the great river packets as crippled octogenarians, once proud, powerful vessels that have been rendered obsolete by the relentless march of progress. A river is no longer the primary artery of the nation. It has become a secondary route, a relic of a bygone age. This sense of loss is deeply personal. Twain returns to his boyhood home of Hannibal and finds it transformed. The landscape of his memory, once wild and untamed, has been replaced by the permanence of brick and mortar. He looks at his old acquaintances and realizes that time has moved on, just as surely as the river moves toward the Gulf. There is a profound sense of nostalgia here, a feeling that the golden age of the steamboat was a time of intense, vibrant life that can never be recaptured. When we step back from the plot to look at what Twain is actually doing here, several major themes emerge. The most striking is the transition from romance to expertise. This is a recurring idea throughout the book. The more you understand a thing, the less magical it becomes. To the young boy, the river is a beautiful, mysterious entity. To the professional pilot, the river is a series of hazards, warnings, and technical problems to be solved. Expertise strips away the aesthetic wonder and replaces it with a language of survival. The beauty is still there, but it is a secondary concern to the reality of the snags and the shoals. There is also the theme of duality. The Mississippi is presented as a force that is simultaneously enchanting and desolating. It provides the means for wealth and connection, but it also brings destruction and death. It is a source of life that can just as easily take it away. This duality is reflected in the people who live on it, the brilliant, skilled pilots who are also often socially chaotic or emotionally isolated, and the river itself, which is both a highway and a graveyard. Twain also explores the tension between appearance and reality. He touches on this through the humbugs and tall tales told by rivermen, where the line between truth and exaggeration is perpetually blurred. There is also the discrepancy between a pilot's public reputation for unshakable calm and the private, internal fear that they must constantly manage. This theme of masks and illusions runs through the entire narrative, suggesting that much of what we see on the surface, whether in a person or a landscape, is not the whole story. Ultimately, the book is a study of change. Twain uses the physical movement of the river, the way it shifts its banks and creates new paths, as a metaphor for the instability of everything else: politics, social boundaries, and the passage of time. The river's refusal to stay in one place is a constant reminder that nothing in life is permanent. The book ends not with a grand climax, but with a series of cultural observations and a descent into the mythology of the river. Twain moves through the industrial hubs of St. Paul and Minneapolis, looking back at the journey he has taken. The final impression is one of a man standing on the shore, watching the current pull the past away from him. He has documented a way of life that was defined by the limitations and the possibilities of the water. As the steamboats fade and the railroads take over, the river remains, but its character has changed forever. Twain's Life on the Mississippi is more than just a memoir of a job. It is a meditation on the way technology, nature, and time work together to reshape the world. He leaves us with the image of a river that is always moving, always changing, and always reminding us that we are merely passing through its currents.